The challenge became, like I mentioned before, was the acting and directing part of it. There was times where my brain wanted to absolutely melt, because I was trying to deal with my actors and in the scene itself. But at the same time, as a director, you have, I had up to 25 people coming up to me with questions between takes of like, what do we want to do with it? Like, so I had to, I think, really parcel out my brain to see the bigger picture at all times, but also the micro moments of the film because I was in those scenes.
Hey everybody, and welcome to a special edition of How Do You Like That Movie? The Blood in the Snow Film Festival plays from the 18th to the 23rd of November in Toronto, and we are touching base with some of the films that are going to be there. Today, we're going to be talking to the director of Hunting Matthew Nichols. Hey man, welcome to the show. If you could just introduce yourself and give us a quick rundown of the film that you have playing at Blood in the Snow Film Festival.
Excellent. Yeah, good to be here. My name is Markian Tarasiuk. I'm the director of Hunting Matthew Nichols. That is going to be playing at Blood in the Snow Festival on the 19th at 9:30 p.m. So yeah, I mean, what to say about the movie? It's a bit of a wild ride here. I encourage all audience members to come in kind of not knowing a lot about the movie, to come in with fresh eyes. But basically it tells the story of Tara Nichols, whose brother Matthew went missing 23 years ago on Vancouver Island. And this is our search for answers, basically to find out what happened to him, because it's been a cold case for that 23 years. So his sister, Tara, is going on a search for what exactly happened to him and his friend Jordan Reimer 23 years ago. And it kind of devolves throughout the movie to an ending that is exciting and thrilling for audience members alike. So yeah, that's about it.
So as you said, your film plays Tuesday, November 19th at the Blood in the Snow Film Festival. So you're nominated for Best Picture, Best Director, Best Lead Acting Performance in a Feature. Did I miss any? Like that's a pretty good slate. Like I think that puts you in the top category for the feature films that are playing this year.
Yeah, we're so grateful. Like I'm so grateful that Blood in the Snow has recognized us in that way. I mean, um, we're a small movie and we made it completely independently. So to get that kind of recognition, out of the bat, and we've been playing at a couple festivals that have been, so kind of nominating for us for other awards and stuff. So we're just excited to be here, and like you just said, in the running for that. It's truly, I'm amazed. Yeah.
So you're not new to, and then I'm going to let Scott talk because I've got a bad habit of monopolizing our guests on this show. So you got a pretty solid history in the industry, but if I'm correct, this is your first feature film. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah, this is my first feature. This is the first time I've stepped into the directing chair. And yeah, I mean, like you just said, I've been an actor for, working professionally for about, 14 years at this point. So this is my first time going into that role. And, unlike a lot of people, and this has been brought to my attention of like, oh, what shorts have you made? And like, what have I, how have I really practiced in being a director? And the truth about that answer is I haven't. I just kind of like went full send on my first one into the feature land. And yeah, here we are. So it's been a wild ride. It's been challenging. It's been a lot, but at the same time, it's been kind of the most gratifying project that I've been a part of creatively and artistically my entire career. So I'm just so excited to share this with audiences finally.
Yeah, big fan of the movie. Super enjoyed it. My question is, at what point during the process were you like, no, I gotta go behind the scenes, like this has to be me, right?
Yeah, I mean, we can talk about the film, and it's a tricky one to talk about, I'm sure.
Yeah,
As
I don't want to
you know.
spoil anything. Yeah.
No, this has been our challenge the entire time, and I think once audiences see it, they understand. All these press interviews that I've been doing have been very confusing, but I think that's a good thing. They've been a little vague in it, and so in what process was I kind of like introduced into kind of being on camera? I would say it was like in the development side of the film, and I'm happy to talk about this as being, a faux documentary. We're calling it. I think when we use the term mockumentary, it steers people into the wrong direction of comedy, because that's usually what this genre of mockumentaries is usually associated with. So during the process, it was with my writer Sean Oliver that we were trying to figure out a lot of kind of like the keys of unlocking, telling the story, and how to tell it, and how to blur the lines of reality to really to push this to that edge of what's real and what's not. And it was an idea that Sean had, was, I think, Markian, you as the director just need to be in this as a character and get involved with it, because in the reality of creating this documentary, that's what we would do, right? And a lot of my favorite documentaries that we base this on, which is, Murder on Middle Beach, which is HBO, The Jinx, recently Chimp Crazy on HBO was another one where you see that the documentary kind of takes a turn halfway through, where it becomes what we call like process-based documentary, where the documentary becomes the documentary. It becomes behind the scenes. And being an actor, Sean was very, very smart in inserting myself. We originally had two other characters in early drafts of the script who played my part. And so we just amalgamated those together and was like, okay, this could be really fun, that if me as the director, which I am the director as my name in the story, now is a central character in that movie, in our movie, is just a new, interesting thing that a lot of these kinds of movies haven't really done before. So that's where that idea came from. And it became exciting for me, but also incredibly challenging, because I am the director, but I'm also in the movie. So there was a lot of factors, I'd say, at play that made this an extremely difficult project to helm at the end of the day, but I think just adds to that level of reality that we were really going for.
What, as a first-time director, was there any challenge? Well, first off, what were your major challenges? And were there any challenges that, because you've been on set, like you have a pretty solid as an actor, so it wasn't your first time on set, but was there any challenges that you came into as a director being like, oh, I didn't even think this was going to be an
on this one particularly, I think the short answer to that question is no. We knew this was going to be incredibly challenging. And so the amount of planning and pre-production we did was extensive, where me as a director, I planned every day, every scene with my team and producers and DP, kind of to the T. So, and we shot it in such a small schedule. We did this in 12 days total. So so we were like, every day was 12 hours. Actually, we never went over that 12 hours, because I think that I knew the challenges that I was about to face. So I took every step possible to make sure that we were totally planned out. And so I don't think there was anything that I didn't know which was coming. I just think in the process of it all, the challenge became, like I mentioned before, was the acting and directing part of it. There was times where my brain wanted to absolutely melt, because I was trying to deal with my actors and in the scene itself. But at the same time, as a director, you have, I had up to 25 people coming up to me with questions between takes of like, what do we want to do with it? So I had to, I think, really parcel out my brain to see the bigger picture at all times, but also the micro moments of the film, because I was in those scenes. But thankfully, I think I just hired, I'd say, the best actors in the world for this project who were able to roll with it. And I would say that about 25 to 30% of the movie is improvised dialogue. So I encouraged everybody to do what they want with the scenes, to improvise. And I think I was also helming that, where I would improvise as well too, and let my actors kind of I led by example to like be like, okay, this is where we want to go with the scene. This is how I want it to feel. Make it your own words. And that, I'd say about 30% of the movie became, you know, stuff we made up in the moment, which was challenging, but there's always a but when I'm talking about this stuff. It made the process way easier because learning lines wasn't an issue. And we were able to just kind of on the fly get what we needed to do, as opposed to being rigid in our form and in the way we shot. So it was like a really flexible but chaotic schedule. Yeah.
Do you have any recommendations for, and now that you've completed the project, for a first-time filmmaker, especially the directors? Like what would be your secret sauce? Because the film looks gorgeous. I mean, that ending, and again, there's no spoilers. I was watching it on my laptop, obviously, and those jump scares and stuff still were punchy. So what your advice to first-time directors getting ready to step into their first feature in order to get this kind of seamless project? And I mean, you can even talk about how you got into the festivals, hiring producers, any of that type of adjacent stuff as well.
Yeah. Look, I mean, this was no easy task. And I think everybody, like when I've gotten that question before, it's been like, yeah, how do I do this? How do you do this? And it's just complete commitment to the project. I'd say, like, I just encourage everybody who's on this journey of getting their first feature out is just keep going, just do it, just do it, just do it, just do it. Because this project was 4 years in the making. So yes, it felt like we shot it overnight, and we shot last December and then we premiered this October. So we were basically, from production to premiere, we were about 10 to 11 months, which is a fact I'm really proud about. But behind all that was 4 years of preparation, right? Like this didn't just happen overnight, and development and pitching, and how many times we got no's. I would say for every yes, I got about 100 no's, that this won't work. You can't do that. This isn't gonna, like, your ideas are too crazy. People aren't gonna like it. There was just no's at every step of the way with this process. And I just continued on, me, Sean, and it was eventually just finding those people, and we did, who saw the potential, who saw what we were trying to do and accomplish. That you started getting these small yeses throughout. So we found my producers, Lucy and Matt and Amy, who understood it. And then their networks brought in more people. So I'd say to like new filmmakers who have an idea is, number one, your commitment has to be always at the top. And at the same next point, find the people who understand what you're trying to do, who believe in you, and like hold on to them, because that becomes your network. And now their networks became my networks. And so it was just like it felt super organic and meant to be at the end of the day of who came onto this project. And then just keep going, like, from the pitching to fundraising to then post, lean on everybody. And how and I think every director should have this idea, is that always hire people or work with people who are better than you. And I think I did that in every department. Like I leaned on so many people for this, especially as a first-time director. I asked their opinions, I listened to their opinions, and even through the process of editing, where I had edits and then I would show people. And we did, what I call is like our own test screenings, where I showed different demographics. I showed different people from different backgrounds, the cut, and everybody brought different thoughts and opinions, which eventually got us down to our final edit. And I'm so grateful that I did that, because the more people you can involve and more opinions, I think makes it stronger. And I was never precious with this project. And so that's my last piece of advice, is don't be precious with it. Listen to what people are saying. If you're given critiques, they're giving them always for a reason. So even if you may disagree, or I disagreed, I had to like step back and be like, okay, why am I getting that note? And if it's a note that comes up multiple times that I disagree with, I'm probably wrong. So being able to check myself at the door, I think was a very humbling but helpful experience. Yeah.
Well, just kind of piggybacking off of that, at what point you're in the process were you like, we got something? Like, was it the first time you got that last edit and you're like, yeah, this is it? Like, when did it become precious to you that you're like, this is my baby?
Precious.
Oh man, I would say that it never became precious. Like I really didn't want to put my cart before the horse. But honestly, if I think the honest answer to that question, to be honest with you, was day one of shooting, where we've been prepping for 4 years, where all that work all of a sudden comes down to the microscopic moment of just shooting it, right? Because there's so much that has happened to get to that point. And it was day one. And so our first scene of the entire movie was the altercation between Pam, the cop, and Tara at the table. So that was the first scene that we shot of the movie. And it's my favorite scene of the movie. And Christine and Miranda just absolutely killed it. And that whole scene is a one shot. You know, we didn't cut for that total of 8 minute scene. And I was able to just sit there and look at it and see their acting and see them improvise, because a lot of that scene is improvised. And it was at that moment when I was worried that, like, oh my gosh, this movie really makes or breaks with the actors, to be honest, because they have to be believable. They have to really resonate with the characters and their wants and needs. And I saw that scene play out, and it was a huge sigh of relief for me, because I saw the performances and was like, okay, we've got something here. This is going to be special. And then that attitude just kind of continued throughout the shoot, where I was like, it was exceeding my expectations of what I thought this could be or how it could feel. Along with my DP Justin, when I was seeing how it was looking, it was just like that was really the moment where I knew going into the edit for post-production I was going to be fine.
Are you able to disclose your budget? Because again, the film looks really good. So
no, I'm not able to disclose it. No.
I know you want.
It's funny.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, again, indie filmmaking. We haven't sold the movie yet, and distributors and everybody wants to know that question, and it's something we're just not giving away, because like, if you want to get behind the curtain for any of your listeners or viewers here, it's like the distributors and whatever love to create the value of your film always based on your budget.
Writing this down, this is good stuff.
So, we're trying to avoid that, to be like, judge the project on its merits, not on the money that we did for it. But at the end of the day, it's no hiding that it was very low budget. But yeah,
but again, it does look really good. Like we see a lot of indie stuff. And this doesn't come across as a low budget film. So you did a great job with whatever your budget was. I want obviously everybody to see this film at Blood in the Snow, and when it does get distribution. But is there a certain, like, can you list a couple films that you think, if you like those films, check this out? I know you did list some TV, like Netflix documentaries and HBO, but again, what are some films that, if you like them, definitely come check this film out?
Yeah, I mean, the ones I listed, I really do think, this movie at the end of the day is for a lot of audiences. I think if you're a fan of the true crime documentaries that I just listed, I'm a huge fan of them. I watch every one that comes out on Netflix. It's the classic, pour yourself a glass of white wine on a Friday night and watch Murder and Mayhem. With those docs, if you're a fan of those, I've really curated this to feel like a Netflix true crime doc, and that was done very purposefully. But at the same time, if you're a genre fan, I think we've played at festivals that are not genre festivals. We've played at genre festivals, and this is hitting in both directions. And I think that's what the strength of our film is that if you're not a horror fan or a thriller fan, but you like the docs over here, you're going to love it. If you like the docs, you're going to love it. But if you're a genre fan, you're going to love it. And so just on the genre side, the classic ones, the easy ones to do is the Blair Witch Project, Lake Mungo, Paranormal Activity. I would say, just in terms of like the way we shift tonally, is something. And one of my favorite movies of the last 5 years is Barbarian, who was a first-time director as well too on that movie. I was so impressed by it. But what, like Barbarian, I love giving, we're very different than that movie, but what I like is giving as the example from that film is that movie shifts 3 times very specifically in kind of the way the storytelling is happening, and your expectations are subverted throughout it. And that's what I love in movies. That's what I want to do as a filmmaker, is you don't really know what you're about to see going into it, and we just slowly turn the dial on you throughout this movie to take you to new places where you're starting to hopefully question your reality throughout this entire process of this movie.
Have you ever questioned the nature of your reality?
So those are kind of like my favorites to give as touch points to fans. Yeah.
Fantastic. Do you have anything else that you want our audience to know about your film? Again, it plays Tuesday, November 19th at 9:30 at the Blood and Snow Film Festival. Before we let you guys get out of here, is there anything else you want them to know?
Yeah, sure. I mean, like I mentioned before, we're a small movie. We're totally independent. We're grassroots, and that's how we're approaching this movie from a distribution standpoint, from a marketing standpoint. So if you enjoyed the movie, and I really do want people to come see this in theaters, because I built it out to be watched in theaters. And that was a thing that I was a talk with my DP was, can we make this as cinematic as possible? It was the same thing with my sound designers. Can we make this as cinematic as possible? And I told them to please build it out for theaters, because that's where I want this movie to land in the best case scenario. And so what these festivals offer us is an opportunity to show this movie theatrically. And it's a totally different experience when you watch this communally. I've seen it now 4 times with, sold out audiences. And it's this really special experience, sound and the way it looks up on the cinema it's really meant to be there. And I'm really proud of that fact. So if you are in the cities, if you're in Toronto, if you're in Vancouver or Lake Whistler, please come out to see it. And hopefully in 2025, we're in some other festivals as well too. So aside from that, just please come see the movie while it can be seen in theaters. If you loved it or if you liked it, or even if you didn't like it, talk about it. Review us on IMDb, tweet about us, share us on Instagram. Go on Letterboxd and write your review. And I encourage everybody. We're going through this hashtag called Facts Not Fear. And so when we want everybody to talk about this, is talk about the facts of the movie, not the fear of the movie. So talk about the case, not the scares. So the next generation of audiences can come in with no spoilers. But of course, just any dialogue and anything online is going to be super helpful for us to eventually get this movie out to the masses. So that's what I talk about our movie.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. Again, that is the director of Hunting, Matthew Nichols. Again, we really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to come and chat about your film. And again, it's playing at Blood in the Snow Film Festival. All the links he talked about and the links for Blood in the Snow will be in all of our show notes.
And that is our wrap for the day. Please like and subscribe to this podcast. Tell your friends. If you want to get a hold of us, we're just at the www.howdyoulikethatmovie.com.
So
that was great, eh?
No, go ahead.
That was great. I only said 2 questions. It was nice.
Yeah. I'm going to steal all of his directing tips and production tips. So
it was very inside baseball and very smart. Like, especially the budget question, right? Like, you don't think about it. Absolutely. What he was saying in terms of like distribution, like myself as a novice, I never would have thought of that.
Yeah, that basically by giving away that information, you lose leverage.
Yeah.
Production by Rod Shaver, Vader Monkey Productions.